is here to run the show. It's Dan King, you should already know. Dan King is gonna run the show. Oh yeah, listen up now, here we go. Dan King, he is the king of the empire, the chief, the leader. He's here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know. It's Dan King, and it's the top.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Well, we're finally here. After 5 weeks of putting out videos, my top 100 games of all time, here we go with the top 10. Now you'll notice behind me, I typically have a lot of boxes, and you'll see a bunch of them missing, which tells you that those are probably on this list. Well, let's get started. Number 10 is a Euro game. Yes, I know I don't typically like Euro games, but this is an exception because it has lots of player interaction. You can even espionage someone else's spot and get into their buildings. We're talking about Manhattan Project. Love, love, love this Euro game. 2 to 5 players. It says 2 hours. We're usually done in, an hour and 15 or an hour and a half once you know how to play the game. In this game, it's a worker placement game where you're placing and trying to do different things. You're putting people in universities to get them to be scientists. You're also trying to get money. You're trying to build buildings that will help you get the yellow cake, which is the type of resources that help you get the plutonium or the uranium, which then helps you build the bombs. Now in this game you don't actually ever use the bombs. It's the Manhattan Project. It's a realistic theme. You're just building them. There's some very interesting mechanisms here. One is the mechanism of in the worker placement where you decide whether you're going to be placing or retrieving your guys. And the timing of this game really ratchets up the tension because you got a bunch of guys out there. Someone's on a spot that you want to go on. Do I do this one move that's still there, but then risk being that one spot that I really want? Maybe he's going to retrieve this turn. What do I do? And it's this tension of he retrieves all his guys, and it's like, oh man, I knew I should have retrieved because now somebody else got the spot that I wanted. So it's this ebb and flow, and if this whether you're going to pull all your guys back and retrieve them or place, that tension is there throughout the whole game. I love how you have your own board and you're building your own buildings. The best spot in this game that really ratchets this game up for me is the espionage spot where you got to pay some money, and if you can go there, you can go use other people's buildings, and then they can't use them while you're in there. And the other cool thing is you can really screw them by putting some of your people and putting a contractor there, so that when he retrieves his workers, there's still a contractor there. Or when he retrieves he has to wait till he retrieves his workers, and then someone else can go there again and keep getting into his espionage spot, assuming that spot's open. There is some attacking involved in the game. You can go and you can bomb people, but we don't see that happens too often because if someone has a building that's good enough, typically people are going to espionage it instead of bombing anyway. So there's also that cool mechanism of cards get cheaper as they come along, and the secrecy of drafting which bombs you're trying to build. This game is amazing. It really ticks off every aspect of things I like, of tension and interaction and messing with people. It's just a great solid game, and it's a racing game in the end. You're trying to see who can get the most points from the bombs. Excellent game. My number 9 is a social deduction game. It's based off a well-known game called Werewolf, and this is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. This is a game in which you're either on the village team or the werewolf team, and you secretly look at your role. Now, the werewolves get to open their eyes and see each other while everyone else has their eyes closed, and they get to see who they're working with to try to have one of the villagers killed at the end of the 10 minutes. This is a real-time game. It's played in only 10 minutes, which is really cool. Now, the rest of the people, during the time, everyone's going to have their eyes closed, and they're going to be able to look at their role at the beginning of the game, and some of those roles will do special things, like the troublemaker will swap any 2 people's cards. So you may have been a werewolf, and now you don't know it, but you're not one. But the whole game, you're sort of acting like one. Or you may think you're somebody, but you're actually really a werewolf, and that messes things up. Some people get to look at other people's cards. Some people get to look at cards in the middle. There's all sorts of crazy things that happen. Some people get to wake up and look at their card to make sure they know who they are. So the whole time, once everybody goes through the role selection and the abilities at the beginning, everyone opens their eyes, and you have 10 minutes to just talk it out. It's very organic. Everyone's just talking about claiming to be who they are. And you all sorts of different things. Well, why are you claiming to be that so early? I am the hunter. No, I'm the hunter. Well, one of you two is lying. Let's get to the bottom of this. And we start going back and forth. And you try to take bits and pieces of people's information and kind of put them together to kind of weave together the story of what really happened while everyone's eyes was closed. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. You'll be pointing. You'll be accusing your friends, your wives, your spouses, all that stuff. just to see what happens, and afterwards you talk it out and you all laugh. And you'll always play it at least 3 times because it's so fun. It's only 10 minutes. One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Number 8 is a game that has some negotiation in it, has some dice rolling in it, and it's about Vegas. We're talking about Lords of Vegas here. In this game, it's 2 to 4 players, plays in about 90 minutes. In this game, you are trying to, it's like area control, where you're trying to have control and be the boss of certain casinos in the Strip. You're basically making the Strip back in the 1950s. And there's certain things where you're trying to overthrow other people's casinos. You're trying to make your casinos bigger. You're trying to negotiate deals and swap plots of land for money, or there's some open negotiation. Sometimes if you don't have enough money to do what you want to do, you can go gamble at somebody's casino and try to get some money from them so you can then do some actions. I love how this game's organic. Every round, one casino scores. And it's like this speculation of seeing, you know which casinos have scored how many times, and you know the probabilities of, hey, this one hasn't scored in a while, I'm going to build this one. But the bigger your casinos are, the more points they score. So you're trying to build some casinos very big, you're trying to get some smalls for short-term cash and long-term cash. You're trying to negotiate, you're trying to hostily take over people's casinos. This game has a lot of great things going on. It's amazing. I love the negotiation in it, the randomness, the dice rolling adds some fun, some crazy moments where everyone will be standing around the table watching a die roll to see who takes this casino over towards the end of the game. It's a lot of fun, a lot of tension. Lords of Vegas. My number 7 is another social deduction game. It's based off The Resistance. This is actually The Resistance Avalon. This is a version of so in this game, essentially, there'll be some people that are minions of Mordred, or bad guys or spies, and there'll be some that are true servants and good people. Everyone gets to see their role at the beginning, and they get to see whether they're good or bad. The bad people will get to open their eyes and see who they are. And then you'll go through different rounds of one person will be able to say, I want these certain people to go on this quest, and everybody will vote whether they trust those people or not. And the conversations that happen here are very interesting and very fun. And then whether they go, and if they do go, then the good guys have to pass the mission. The bad guys can either pass or fail it. They're trying to fail a mission to win the game, because if they fail 3 missions, they win. But they might pass a mission to gain some trust, which makes this a social experiment. Now, the reason why I like this so much better than the regular Resistance is that this has a lot of different roles. For example, you have Merlin, who's a good guy, and he gets to see who the bad guys are, but the bad guys don't get to see who he is. So during the game, he has perfect information, and he's trying to relay that information to his good people, but he can't be too obvious, because at the end of the game, if the good people win, one of the bad guys is an assassin, and he gets to choose which person he thinks is Merlin that knew too much. And if so, ooh, turn of fate, at the end of the game, the bad guys win anyway. Oh, and there's all sorts of roles, like there's a bad guy that doesn't get to see the other bad guys. There's a good guy that gets to see who Merlin is, and all sorts of different roles there. So the roles really make this game ratchet up to a different level. And this is a social deduction game that will have you pointing and accusing and doing all sorts of crazy things with your friend. It's always a lot of fun. It's very quick. It's like a 20-minute game, but it's a blast. The Resistance Avalon. My number 6 is a very new game. It's just came out at Gen Con. It's by my favorite designer, Bruno Cathala, from Days of Wonder. Yes, we're talking about 5 Tribes. Whoa, why is it so high on your list? It just came out, because it's amazing. I love this game. I didn't even know if I was going to like it before I got it. This game's awesome. There's a lot of different ways you can go strategically for scoring. The aspect of this game, the main mechanism is where you're picking up a bunch of meeples off the board and you're dropping them off adjacently, and you're trying to collect certain ones that will allow you to do special actions with those people. Each of the tribes do different actions, which allow you to go down a different strategy path. You also activate the tile, and each of the tiles allow you to do something special too. The thing I love about this game is it's a random setup, tiles and meeples. So every time you play the game, it's going to be set up completely different. Then, as the game plays, as people are moving stuff, the board morphs and changes. So you have everything at the board at the beginning, and then the amount of options shrink as you go on. And it's just amazing elegance of a mechanism there. And there's a bidding aspect, which is very interesting, because at the beginning of the round, everyone can see what moves are available or what's out there. And people will be bidding for points, essentially, or dollars in this game, to try to see who gets to go first, second, third, fourth. And I might see something I really like and bid a certain amount. Somebody might outbid me and do that same move. And, oh, I should have bid more. Or they bid higher than me and they do something else. But because he dropped people off, now I can't do my move because it doesn't match up. I love it. It's tension, it's bidding, it's this evolving puzzle that changes every game and changes every move. And I love that. You might have a strategy to go down a certain path, but you're going to have to adapt. And there's so many different ways you can go. Love this game. Phenomenal. The components knocked it out of the park. The artwork, everything about this game I love. 5 Tribes. My number 5 is a deduction game made a long time ago from the late, great Sid Saxon. Plays 3 to 7 players. This is called Sleuth. Wow. I also call this kind of Clue on steroids because basically there's no board. You're just having cards. You're trying to figure out what's the one gem that's been stolen. And so similarly to Clue, you're trying to figure that out. But what makes this game so interesting is you have a certain 4 cards in front of you that are certain question types. And you can take any of those 4 question types and ask any person at the table those. And the interesting thing is, when you ask somebody something, sometimes depending on the card, they will show you what they have. But then they will announce how many they gave to you to everybody else. So everyone's getting information on every turn. Other times they will just say to everybody how many they have. So there's never any downtime because you're getting information on every turn. You're watching what other people are saying. You're making notes. You're crossing off certain things, and you're trying to shrink which ones could be there. If you like logic puzzles, if you like deduction, this is one of my favorite. This is probably my favorite straight deduction game. Sleuth is awesome. It's quick. It plays, what does it say? It says 30 minutes. It's about accurate. It can be longer with more people. My favorite's like 3 or 4 people, but it plays up to 7. So if you like deduction games, you like to take notes, you like to try to narrow things down, Sleuth is the way to go. And I think it's like $20 or less. It's a no-brainer. My number 4 is another deduction game, but it has hidden movement. Talking about Letters from Whitechapel from Fantasy Flight Games. Oof, this game is quite amazing. One player plays Jack the Ripper. The other player or players, because it plays up, I think, there could be 6 total players. So 5 investigators working together cooperatively against 1 Jack. But my favorite way to play this game is actually 2-player. 1 player's Jack, 1 player's running all 5 investigators. And what happens is Jack has a hideout. And each night, he has to get back to that hideout within a limited amount of time without being arrested to win the game. And there's a number of rounds that you go through. So each round he's going to kill one person. There's one round that he kills 2. And the investigator, what they're trying to do is over the course of the nights, they're trying to find out. Now Jack's hidden. You can't see where he is on the board. He's doing it hiddenly moving. And when your investigators are going, he's like, they can investigate. Okay, were you at this spot anytime this round? If they were, they have to put a clue marker. So what you're trying to do is over time is figure out, okay, well, he went this way. That means his hideout really can't be on this side of the board. And so round after round, you're trying to like knock off half the board, knock off half the board, knock off half the board. You're trying to zone in into where his hidden place is to finally hopefully catch him. It's an amazing game. It's super tense. This game brings more tension when you're Jack than any other game I've ever played. It's something that you have to experience as a board gamer. It's amazing. And if you like the logic and deduction side, you'd probably like to be the investigators as well. The 2 sides feel so different. There's also a lot of cat and mouse games before the actual hunt starts as to where's the kill going to be, where are the cops really. There's almost like a game within a game before you get to the hunt each round. Amazing mechanics, super elegant, super tenseful, unbelievable game, Letters from Whitechapel. My number 3, by just coincidence, is another game that has Jack the Ripper in it. This is my last Mr. Jack game. This is my last Bruno Cathala game, Mr. Jack in New York. I've talked about the Mr. Jack series. Why do I love this one the most? It's not the one you should start with, because it's the one that's the most complex, it's the most open, it's the most brain-burnery, which is why I ended up loving it. I didn't like it at first, but once I played it over and over and over, and I played it more, it is now my favorite. It does some things better, I think, than the original Mr. Jack. It's more balanced. The other one was like 60-40, you win as investigator versus Jack. Here it's a lot more 50-50. There's a lot more ways to escape. In the original Mr. Jack, you're trying to escape, but it's really hard to do so. It's a lot easier just to kind of like get a false accusation. Where in this, it's really about escaping. And I like that aspect of it. There's a lot of tension. Again, in this game, one side's Jack, one side's the investigator. Jack knows who he is on the board. He's trying to keep his identity secret. He's trying to bluff and move around and make the other player think he's somebody else. The investigator is trying to watch what they're doing, try to deduce who is he and what is he trying to do. The thing I love about this series is the layers upon layers. The first time you play this game, the first few times, especially if you're playing with someone else who has not played the game, you're going to play it and you're going to go, oh, that's it? That's kind of simple. There's not really a lot to this game. But if you play with someone that's experienced, or you play it more and more and more, you'll work through the different layers of the game. At first, it's just like a little bit of simple deduction. Then it's like just elimination. Then you start getting into knowing how a Jack really works well. And then you start getting into these layers of bluffing. And then you get in layers of double bluffing. And it just becomes like this layer upon layer upon layer that just opens up as this game, as you play it more and more with more experienced people. And I love that. And I never get sick of it. I've played this game over 100 times, and I'm not even close to being sick of it. I love it. I love that even though it starts off the same, the characters that come out each round are different. Each character has a special move and a special ability. And you're trying to catch them by the 8th round. It just has a lot of tension, has a lot of guessing, a lot of bluffing. and you're trying to figure out who he is. It's just a great cat and mouse game. Mr. Jack in New York plays really quick, 20 to 30 minutes. My number 2 is a game that's very popular. It's a family style game, has one Spiel des Jahres. Here's the 10th anniversary edition of Ticket to Ride. Whoa, how can a game like this be so high on your list? Because I love it. I have gotten more people into the board gaming hobby with this game than any other game in my collection. I love it because of its simple elegance. I told you in my intro video, my favorite type of game is 60 minutes or less, easy rules to teach, a few decisions, but those decisions are great, they're deep, there's a lot of interaction. This fits that bill. Grandparents can play it, kids can play it, but gamers can play it too. You can play this game very casual, very open, learn a little geography, have some fun with the family, or you can play with gamers, memorize the locations of where people are going, block them left and right, be it very cutthroat, and I love how you can play this game 2 different ways like that. I also love that there's so many expansions for this game that you'll never get bored of it, really. I have almost every expansion, and it just opens up a new world of opportunity. For those who don't know about this game, essentially you are trying to connect routes. You have these route cards, and you're building your train route, in this case, around the United States, but they have ones for Europe and all sorts of countries as well. And you're trying to connect these routes. You're basically pulling up cards on your turn, or you're playing cards to lay trains. You're trying to get routes there before people block you off, and you're trying to score those points, which are hidden until the end of the game. So it's a good balance of known information and hidden information, player interaction, elegance, simplicity. It's all there with Ticket to Ride. It's obviously one of my favorite games. It's number 2. And man, if you have not played this game, it's very readily available. Lots of expansions. Just love it. Ticket to Ride, my number 2. My number 1 is a mix of negotiation and Euro type of area control game. It's called Nothing Personal. It's a longer game. You're looking at 2 to 3 hours most likely with the full game. Yeah, and so 3 to 5 players. This game, the reason why it's my number 1, and again, I disclaim that this one of the designers is Tom Vasel. The other one is Steve Avery. Tom Vasel is the leader of the Dice Tower Network, which I am on, but I will disclaim that by saying this had nothing to do with how much I love this game. I love negotiation. This game has open-ended negotiation, which for beginner players, when I first played this game, I didn't like it because the negotiation was so open that nobody knew what to negotiate for, or how, or when. And it played very stagnant, and it played more like a straight Euro area control game, and it didn't go over that well. Once we started playing this game with playing more with the negotiation, they took this game off the hinges and really ratcheted this game up. This is a game where you can negotiate for anything, almost any time. And so the deals you make, this game has made more memorable experiences than any other game in my collection, which is why it's my number 1. And you know it's a good game when what you have done in this game, in past games, affects different games in the future. You'll be playing a different game. You go, oh, no, I'm not doing that. You remember that game in Nothing Personal when I did this and you brought me all up to the top and then you finally stabbed me in the back? I'm not. This game just, it transcends all other games, and that's why I love it. The negotiation is so awesome. You're essentially in this game trying to have influence over the mafia bosses, and each one is a mafia family, and there's a pyramid structure of the grunts all the way up to the top, and you're playing cards to try to gain influence of these different guys, and those guys are going to get you points and money, but they're also going to give you special abilities depending on the card or who they are or where they are on the board. And so there's different special abilities that come in. You're trying to control these different gangsters, and there's all sorts of crazy things and special powers that can be done with those special cards. And that mixed with the negotiation of hey, and the cool thing is whoever's on the top, the capo, he wears this cool ring. Very cool components, excellent artwork in this game. That cool ring allows him to break ties. So anytime there's a tie for influence on somebody, hey, who's going to do what to allow the tie? Are you going to make future promises? Are you going to pay money? Are you going to allow this guy to move up? Are you going to keep those promises? So it's a game about negotiation and then probably stabbing your buddies in the back and getting them all mad at you at the end. Wow, excellent game. More organic and the cooler experiences in this game than anything else I've ever seen in board games. Nothing Personal, my number 1.
Here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know it's Dan King. And it's the top 100 board games.